Well, Nabila Ramdani joins us now, journalist and commentator on the Middle East. And Nabila, from your perspective, how serious is the situation, given that there have been at least a dozen killed in Cairo today and more elsewhere?
Well, today is clearly a crucial day because it's when dissident groups traditionally meet after Friday prayers, and that's exactly what supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood have done. Prayer is particularly obvious, an obvious rallying point for thousands of devout supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood, and anger has reached boiling point following the murders across the country of Muslim Brotherhood supporters. They have pledged to seek to express that anger through peaceful protest, but of course, the chances are that they will be anything but peaceful, especially if the military reacts in a way that we know they can. And as you rightly said, already there are reports of people being injured and indeed killed. So the situation on the ground is hugely fraught. And don't forget that we're dealing with the biggest country by population in the Arab world. I work there a lot. It's a massive place, and I can tell you that all kinds of horrors, including murders, torture, and indeed illegal imprisonment, can go ahead undetected.
But given the size of Egypt, is the violence that we're seeing confined to certain areas, or is there a thread, a narrative at least, which is going right through the Egyptian population?
Well, clearly, the Muslim Brotherhood and their support and all the supporters of Mohammed Morsi, who's been deposed by a military coup, but also Democrats across Egypt are angry at this situation. And that's why 28 marches have been organized across the country today. And it will be difficult for the military to rein in, especially when those marches will converge at the end of the day. So I'm afraid, this is heading towards further killings.
What do you make of the international response so far? Do you envisage the UN getting involved here?
Well, we've heard calls from European leaders, including the French President François Hollande and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, expressing, extreme concern about the crisis on the ground, and they've actually called for the 28 EU ministries to meet on Friday. So there is a coalition of outrage being formed, and it's about time. And I think this will be welcomed by humanitarians and, if not, Democrats. But clearly, there is a lack of clear condemnation from the international community of the removal at gunpoint of a democratically elected president, and crucially at the routine street slaughters that the army has been carrying out ever since.
And how much is this a dispute, the violence between the Muslim Brotherhood and the military? Or are there secular Egyptians, those people who are not tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, who are also trying to change the situation, trying to overthrow what they see as a coup?
Well, clearly, I think that it's proper to highlight that there's a propaganda. The propaganda is being fought between generals who, of course, control the local media, and who are targeting and indeed keep killing foreign journalists as well, and the protesters. So this is not a country where information can currently be fully trusted, and that's why you get discrepancies between casualty tolls. But there are an awful lot of not only Muslim Brotherhood supporters, but also seculars who are expressed outrage at this routine slaughter, not only targeting Islamists, but also have expressed extreme concern at the rise into sectarian violence, for example, with more churches being targeted by Islamists, but also criticizing the lack of protection by the police and the military, who should be protecting civilian lives.
We don't have much time, but briefly, do you envisage the situation being brought under control in the next few days?
Well, I think this will be hard to contain, effectively a hugely confrontational situation between two historical rivals. And unless the international community steps in, very firmly and forcefully, then I can see no end to this bloodshed.
Nabila Ramdani, thank you very much for your time. That's the journalist and Middle East commentator, Nabila Ramdani.